we were sitting at a cigar bar there, right? So it's all four of us sitting there, and we're talking, we're talking about the business and all this stuff. And I noticed that there's this guy that he keeps walking back and forth, and he keeps looking at us, right? And so after a while, he just, because people just love energy, after a while, he just wanted to jump in and get in the conversation, right? So he's like, hey, I heard you guys do finance, blah, blah, blah. So he gets in, right? And starts telling us all about his background, what he did in finance and all, and he's all fired up, right? So I said to him, I said, so I think he was a stockbroker or whatever the case may be in the industry. So he says, yeah, I was making calls, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I said to him, I said, let me ask you a question. Can you tell us how many dials a day you made when you were in the industry? He says, oh my God, I do cold calls. I do 200 cold calls a day. If I do 200 cold calls a day, that would lead me to 2 sales. And I knew every morning I had to make 200 calls because I closed 2 sales, right? So he said, well, how long did it take you to make those 200 calls? He said a minimum 2 hours. Was it 2 hours, he said? Is it 2 hours? Yeah. So a minimum 2 hours, it would take him to make 200 calls, right? And I said to him, I said, you know what the biggest challenge that I have is? I said, I want you to imagine this, right? He's making 200 calls that are cold calls. That cold call. He doesn't know anybody. He said 98% of the calls, people are going to hang up on him. Don't call me. How did you get my number? Don't ever call me again. That's 98%. No. But every call he made, he knew, I got to make 200 because I'm going to get to 2. Right? So literally did not care about the no's he was getting. He was trying to get to the yes the fastest. He says, matter of fact, the faster they told me no, the better it was because I could get off to the next call. Right? So I said, I tell him, you want to hear something crazy? This is going to blow you away when I tell you this. I said, dude, I got 3,000 licensed agents, 3,500 now, right? And I have these guys, they have these things called a top 25. This is going to blow you away. They know someone that have credibility and gave them this list. It's a warm list. He goes, what? A warm list? They're expecting a call. I go, guess what my guys don't do? He goes, what? They don't call him. He goes, are you kidding me? Literally, Richard goes, oh, Charlier, you set this up, dude. You brought this guy in just to tell us that, right? I said, can you believe they don't? He goes, well, why don't they call? I said, because they're scared. He said, what the hell are they scared of? Like, he was blown away. He could not believe, am I lying, Richard? He could not believe that we don't make calls. I says, dude, I tell my full-timers just make 50 calls. 50 calls, that's it? What the hell are they doing the rest of the day? That was his conversation. What the hell are they doing the rest of the day? Right? And so I looked at it, I said the traditional industry, right? The traditional industry, right? The culture of the environment, you can't make it in the traditional industry without making dials. So when he walks into an environment, there's no like, I'm scared to make calls. Everybody makes calls, right? So now, once you accept that, right? Once you accept that, some of you still, oh, I'm scared to make it. Stop it, okay? Stop it. I mean, step up, right? How long are you going to be scared? You follow me? I don't even let my kids be scared. My son runs in the room. Oh, dad. He's 7 years old. I said, I heard a boogeyman in the closet. I go, let's go in the closet. Ain't no boogeyman. They'll open the door, boom, there's no boogeyman. Go to sleep now. Make sense? Some of you, like, it's 2017, you got to stop being scared. What the hell are you scared of? Stop worrying about what people are thinking about you. Right? So you got to start playing some offense. If this year is going to be different than the last year, then you got to play some offense. You got to start getting aggressive about what it is that you do. Okay, so let's assume you made that decision. Let's assume, just like where's The little one. LaShawn, right? So LaShawn for 5 years, sat here and she says, you know what? I know everything, but I can't see this business winning for me. So she helped everybody around her, and at some point she made a decision. She says, you know what? If they can do it, so can I. You follow me? That's when her business started, when she made that decision. So you could be here, not have made a decision, and you're just the great thing about our business is the 80%ers can become a 20%ers. You follow me? So let's assume 2017 you made the decision, right? Now, here's how I know you made a decision. You don't even come up to me at the end and go, Dan, I just want to let you know I made a decision. That means you didn't. Okay? When you made a decision is backed by massive, immediate action. Right? So there must be a pattern interruption in the way you do your business. So let's say you're full-time, right? And some of you say, well, Dan, I've heard this before. Yeah, you haven't done it. Don't tell me what you heard. Let's talk about what you've done. Make sense? So let's say you're going to do a pattern interruption, and then you're going to go, oh my God, I'm getting ready to do a major pattern interruption. You guys are going to be blown away. You know what I'm doing? For 30 days.
Vegan.
No meat.
No
No alcohol. No cigars. My wife said, what are you going to die? Right? Woo, man. Woo. Can you imagine that?
Where does it start? Where does it start?
Melinda, where does it start? Right? Woo. Anyway, I'm still digesting that. So anyway, right? So let's say you say I'm going to make 50 calls a day. Okay, where am I going to get those phone calls? Where am I going to get those names from? Right? Reference calls, right? Your reference calls, your top 100s, right? Business cards, or your business cards from people that you're prospecting, right? So you're going to show up every day in your office, right? Pre-plan your day the night before, right? You're going to show up in your office and you're going to make a minimum of $50 a day, right? You do $50, leads to 5 appointments, leads to 3 who show, you recruit 1. Those are your numbers. You're going to 50 to get to 1, right? Now, 250 calls per week, 25 appointments, 15 show, 5 recruits, 1,000 calls a month, 100 appointments, 60 show, 20 directs. Plan is to run the system 8 to 12 weeks depending on the results. So it's a 90-day run. Does that make sense? So in 90 days, every big leader in WFG that I know of has built their company in the 90 days where they go, for this next 90 day, I don't care about my title, right? Because we don't pay you just because you're SMD. That's great, but you don't get paid just because you're an SMD. You get paid because you built an SMD business. Does that make sense? So now I don't want to hear about what your team's doing. I want to hear about what you're personally doing that you're driving it. So I remember September of 1999. September of 1999, I don't know what I was doing, but it wasn't any of this. I looked at the end of the month, WFG had paid me $950 that month. And I was pissed. I was like, man, $950, that's it that I made. And I had made $20,000 a month before, and somehow, right, because I didn't really have a team built, right, I made $950 that month. And I got pissed. And I said, that's it. I'm making a decision, right? So we're at a fast start school. And we're in a fast start school with Marlette. Marlette has a guest speaker come speak to the fast start school. His name was James Catledge, right? James Catledge was $1 million earner. Marlette wasn't $1 million earner yet. He's sitting right next to me, right? Marlette's sitting right next to me. James Catledge is talking to our team. He's another leader from another team. He's talking to our team. And in front of our team, he said, well, there's only $1 million earner here, which is me. And I'm sitting next to Marlette. And I'm like, dude, how are you going to come to our team and punk our leader, right? I said, man, it's going down, right? So Catless leaves. I get in front of the team, right? I was already pissed off, right? Because I made 950. So I was just like, I'm gonna put even more pressure on me. So I tell the team, I says, look, never again will we have another leader come speak to our team, right? And talk junk to our team about our leader. We're gonna make a move. We need to move. We need to get to CEO, right? So we got to get Ed Marlette to CEO. And then so get the team all riled up. But then for me, I said, well, what's in it for me? Right? At the end of the day, what's in it for me? Right? So for me, I said, you know what? I was an SMD. I didn't have a ring. I was like, dude, how can I be an SMD and not have a ring? I'm up here giving the BPM, and I'm showing the rings. People are thinking in their mind, where's this ring? And I don't have a ring. I don't even know whether they were really thinking it, but I just put it in my head. Right? I said, I got to get a ring. We had a contest at the time for Hawaii. I said, man, I got to qualify for Hawaii. I had a car that could hardly start. And I said, man, I got to get a new car. And then I called my mom. I said, Mom, I said, January of 2000, I'm gonna wire $24,000 in the account for you. So you can have some money. And, you know, my mother started crying, oh, my God, baby, Jay, thank God. You know, all this stuff, right? So she goes through the whole thing, right? So now I got some pressure on myself. I got to get some stuff done. I can't wait on my team. I got to get some stuff done, right? So in my office, I moved all the furniture out of my office. My office had no furniture. Just had one thing in there, was a podium. You guys know what a podium is? I just had a podium where I could put my top 25s on, my top 100s, and the purpose of my office is just to make dials. So my team wanted to come talk to me, right? They walk in there, they can only ask me a question that could be answered with a yes or a no. I got a whole lot of time to talk. You guys follow me on that? On my door, there's a sign that says, making calls, do not disturb, from 9 to 11. You guys follow me on that? So now, imagine you're full-time now. You made a decision. You're very clear. I got to make at least 50 calls a day, right? And in the beginning, your calls are going to suck. Just trust me. Because you got to go through 3 phases. You got to go awkward, mechanical, and natural, right? So in the beginning, when I started making calls, right, wasn't good at it. So I would call someone. I said, hey, how you doing? This is Dan Charlier. You don't know me, but we have a mutual friend with Bill. Bill tells me, and they'll say, who's Bill? What are you calling me for? And I would start stuttering and all. I said, oh, and I would hang up. It would happen to me quite a few times. And then I would make calls. And I would answer everything they told. Man, I would be on the phone for like 15 minutes. And then I would say to myself, oh my God, well, how am I supposed to make 50 calls? This one call I took 15 minutes for. And then I learned I was talking too much on the phone. The purpose of making a phone call is to set up an appointment, right? And then so I called Marlette in the office. I said, hey man, I want you to watch me make some dials. Right? So I'm making a dial. He goes, dude, you're on the phone way too long. He said, let me take the next call. So he makes the next call. Boom, within a minute and a half, he set up an appointment. I was like, damn. Right? So he said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go get one of those little hour glasses, get the ones for 2 minutes and put it on your desk. And every time you make a call, he said, I don't want you to sit down. I want you to stand up, right? I want you to put a headset on. And I want you to control your physiology when you're making dials, right? So now I got my headset on. I've got my little 2 minute hourglass there, right? And then flip it, and then boom, I'm like, hey, how you doing? This is Dan Shaw. And somehow, when you're standing up, your shoulders are rolled back, right? You're very focused. You know, my clear outcome is to set up an appointment, right? So I started making those calls, started getting better. So you're going to go from awkward, mechanical, and natural, right? Now, how do you get great at making calls? Make calls. There's only so much you can watch someone else do it. Does that make sense? At some point, you got to become a big girl. You got to become a big boy. Stop being scared. Some of you are walking around you're a man, but you're acting like a little boy. Does that make sense? Some of you are acting like you're a woman, but you're acting like a little girl. Wake up. Does it make sense? Start making your dials, right? So now, let's say you made that decision. You go, boom, I'm going to hit my dials. Part of it is preparation. So the night before, you want to make sure you got all your top 25. Some of us find reasons not to make calls. So you get there, oh my God, my phone's not charged. Oh my God. Oh my God, I forgot my headset. I can't make calls, I don't have my headset. And my phone's not charged, right? Oh my God, I forgot my top 25. That's why I didn't make calls today. I forgot my top 25. Stop doing that. Make sense? Stop doing that. Be prepared to do it. Now, you take a look at that, and you go follow up with new directs the completion of top 25 each within 72 hours. So here's what that means. If you recruited 10 people this month, right? You recruited 10 recruits last month, you should have how many names? You should have at least 1,000 names. You should have at least 100 references, right? So now 12 weeks, you have 20 directs, left with each have a team of 5 each, that's 100 people. If I got 20 directs, that got a team of 5 people, I got a team of 100 people, you guys. You guys realize that's not that big. That's 20 people that could put 5 people in a room. So in your BPMs, what you should be focused on is how many people on your team that got a team of 5 people. If I get 20 people, what is a leader? A leader, right, in your base shop, I was telling my base shop this the other day, a leader in my base shop is someone that can do 10 recruits a month, that can do double-digit recruiting, that can put their name on at least 10 apps. If you go to 10 recruits a month, you put your name on 10 apps, you're considered a leader, right? So now they become slightly different in 12 weeks, perhaps 10 to 25 personal calls, 50 to 100 top 25 list calls, top 25 list, 80% success ratio as opposed to 5% personal. Should averages between 12 to 25% personal sales a month depending on matchup, this does not take into account 100 a day ratio of sales made to people who did not join, right? You ever seen the before and after? You ever seen like people go on these 90-day thing before and after, right? So the before is no base shop, the after is big base shop. So imagine if you could go on a 90-day run and you go from having no base shop to a big base shop, what that would look like. Now, some of us are sitting here and we're going, I've seen this before, but I've never created big enough reasons to go do the work. I've never created big enough reasons to go do the work. Right? Now, what I want to challenge you with is if you're really going to make a move, what's the reason you're going to go do it? Because reasons come first, the how-to becomes second, right? Because there's excuses that you've made. Some of us sitting here, we go, well, Dan, the reason I can't do this is because I'm not good at making calls. That's your excuse. Or you go, hey, you know what? I'm just really not a good recruiter. Or you know what? I'm just not really good across the kitchen table, right? So that's a story that you're telling yourself that's actually a false story, right? It's not like you were born and the doctor slapped you on the butt and said, this one can't recruit. That didn't happen to you. Does that make sense? It's just a story you created. Maybe you've recruited someone and that person quit and then you said, you know what? This recruiting thing doesn't work for me. You go, Dan, I recruited a lot of people. What's a lot of people? Oh, I recruited 3 people. That's not a lot. Does that make sense? So let's define what that is. So now you take a look at that. Say, let's give you a short script. Hey, John, did I catch you at a good time? Good. The reason for my call is that I have your name. For some time, I've been meaning to call you, but I've just now found the time. I have an office here in Beverly Hills. I was so impressed with you there. Blah, blah, blah. Our firm has had the real success with people from your industry. We have mutual friend in common. I have your card that says you're boom. I remember using the script. I remember being at a car wash. right? And you know, when you get in the car wash, you see all those cards. You know, people have all these different cards there. So I'm in the car wash waiting to get my car. So I grabbed all the cards. And one of the cards was a guy that was in the real estate industry. And I'm sitting there. I got my headset on, right? So I give him a call. I say, hey, John, how you doing? This is Dan Charlier. You don't know me, but I'm sitting at the car wash, and I saw your card on the stand. I noticed you're in the real estate business. Are you still in the real estate business? He said, yes. I said, my company is growing and expanding. We've had a lot of success with people in real estate. Let me ask you a question. Do you keep your business options open? He said, oh my God, you're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. He said, I'm actually in Hawaii. I'm on a terrace in Hawaii overlooking the ocean, and I was just talking to my wife, telling my wife that we need to transition out the real estate business, and I can't believe you're calling me right now. Wow. Imagine how that works. I said, awesome. When do you get back from Hawaii? He said, I come back from Hawaii in 2 weeks. I said, what date is that? He told me the date. And I said, why don't you and I get together in my office, schedule an appointment. So if I don't make that call, you should get used to making these calls. Does that make sense? My company's growing, expanding, whether it's top 25 calls, reference calls, boom, you're making dials every day in your office. Now, as I say that, here's what's going to happen. Here's the reality. You sit here, you made a decision. Everyone's fired up right now, right? Because you're all in a warm bath. You ever seen like at the barbecues, everyone, hey, Dan, I'm going to hit SMD in 2 days. No, you're at a barbecue and you've been drinking. You're not doing it. So it's a warm bath, right? So here's the reality of what's going to happen. The reality of what's going to happen is tomorrow morning, right after full-timers, you made your decision, right? You're going to show up in the office 7:30, open up your door, boom, green time 9:11. You're going to look around and you're not going to see anybody. Trust me when I tell you. You ain't going to see anybody. And you're going to go, what happened to everybody? I thought everybody was fired up yesterday. Dan talked, right? But here's how I want you to process it. Okay? So when I show up to the office, there's no one there. I'm the only one making calls. Here's what I say to myself. I deserve to achieve my dream because I'm willing to do the things that most people are not willing to do. Does that make sense? So don't be worried about where everybody's at. You just be focused on you. Right? You close your door. It doesn't matter where everybody's at. Doesn't matter what they're doing. What matters is you're willing to pay the price. Success has a price, and it must be paid upfront and in full, and you have made the decision that I'm going to pay the price. Right? Now, here's the deal. You don't have to pay the price for 5 years. You don't have to pay for 10 years. You just got to do it in the next 90 days. So the reality of it is, I haven't made a decision yet. Don't be pushing this on me. Right? So I got to make a decision. It ain't like I'm going to stop smoking cigar the rest of my life. It's just for 30 days. It's still tough, though. I'm still trying to think about it. I figure the more I talk to you guys about it, some of you are going to come up to me. I already know. Some of you, well, Dan, you know, I'm really glad you made that decision. Shut up. I ain't trying to hear you. Keep that to yourself, right? I'm kidding. You guys know what I mean, right? I love you guys. Right? So you got to get good at the one-on-one. You have to be able to sit down with someone with a flip chart and be able to do a one-on-one and be able to recruit and tell our company's story, right? Our mission to create financially independent families positioned to realize their dream. Focus, no family left behind. Vision to build the world's best and largest financial service company. What we do, we take families from dreaming to doing. Right? So you got to get good at the one-on-one. You got to get good at the, God, I see so many cameras, like, you guys are like taking pictures, right? Middle America, telling the story of Middle America, banking, checking accounts, CDs, at very low returns, higher taxes. They live paycheck to paycheck with no plan, drowning in debt, no emergency fund. They die or retire in poverty and pass on debt. Wealthy America, tax-deferred, tax-friendly saving vehicles, professionally managed accounts, lower taxes. They own their own business. That's a big paradigm shift. A big paradigm shift is people used to talk about their career. The paradigm shift now is the new paradigm is building your own business. Does that make sense? They live debt-free lifestyle, have an emergency fund, families retire in dignity. They create and pass on a legacy. How many of us want to create and pass on a legacy? You are not here, listen to me, hopefully you're not here to pay your bills. You can pay your bills at your job. Does that make sense? You're here to create a legacy, build a business, become financially independent, and have your time. How long is it going to take you? It's going to take you however, whenever you decide, it's going to take you very quick. Once I decided, boom, I quit my job, came full time. You follow me? Never went back. Pretty cool. Now, our marketplace, target market, no family left behind. 98% of families with less than 1 million in assets, baby boomers, 80 million people, one born every 8 seconds for the next 18 years, turn 59 and a half. Generation X, additional 114 million people, most of whom do not know how money works. Recession-proof, 45 trillion must be moved over the next 18 years. Trigger is death and ages. Don't tell me you don't have anybody to talk to. We've got a huge window of people that need to take a look at the opportunity, right? Be aware of the 4 A's. Now, there's only 4 things you can control as a leader. Okay, I'm going to be done 30 minutes at 11:30. So if you got to go, you can go, but I'm going to be done at 11:30. There's only 4 things that you can control, right? So as you're making this move, if you made this decision, there's only 4 things you can control. You cannot control what your team's doing. You cannot control what your leader's doing, but you can control what you're doing, right? So the first thing is your attitude. Positive expectations are the mark of a superior personality, right? So you can, if you go into making your calls with the wrong attitude, you go there, well, nobody ever picks up anyway. Maybe it's not a good time. Maybe I'm disturbing them, blah, 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 all this stuff. If you go into it with that attitude, right, you go there with a bad attitude, nobody's going to pick up your call. If you go there with an attitude, well, they're just going to tell me no anyway, everybody's going to tell you no, right? So you got to go with a great attitude. So sometimes I would start making my calls like at 7:30, right? And I would wake people up. And I'd be like, hey, are you asleep? Oh my God, I can't believe you're asleep. And they would be like, well, who's this? I said, man, John told me some great things about you, but now I caught you asleep. I thought you were, and they would start laughing on the phone just because I had a great attitude. So you got, what puts you in a great attitude, right? So you got to get yourself in the right state every morning. So there's 3 things you got to look at to make sure that you're in a great, make sure you're in a great state. So the first thing you got to do is you have to look at your physiology. Your physiology is you got to move your body. You got to get up in the morning. You got to get up in the morning, go for a walk, go for a swim, work out, do whatever it needs to make sure you're drinking a lot of water, right? So get yourself in a great state. You can't make phone calls like you're sitting down and your shoulders are shrugged and you're like, hello? You follow me? So you got to get yourself, you got a physiology, you got to get your body up, right? Wake up, right? Second thing is your language. What are you speaking? Right? You got to talk about where you're going. Your language has got to be positive. No one wants to follow a dull, disillusioned crybaby. Stop talking about your failures. Well, I would have had a good month this month, but I had a pot. No one wants to hear that crap. Right? No one wants to hear about what's going on wrong. Right? People want to be around optimistic people. So you got to start speaking not your current stuff, but where you're going. When you're recruiting, you got to talk to people. So what? You don't have 2 people on your team right now. But it's not going to be like that for long. I'm going to have 100 people on my team. Right? Tell you how crazy this is, right? I'll tell you a story. So Malet, when he left Primerica and came over to WMA, he got sued, right? So he's making money, but he's paying back all this stuff, right? So he had a lot of challenges going on, right? So his house at the time was being foreclosed, right? So he called one of his directs. He's like, hey, my house being foreclosed. Boom, who do you know? Direct says, hey, you got to go see this guy, Harry Grunman, right? He'll help you, boom, all this stuff. So he goes to sit down with Harry Grunman, right? Harry Grumman is helping him. He recruits Harry Grumman into WFG. He said, I know what it looks like right now, but let me tell you where we're going. This is something temporary. Recruits him. Harry Grumman becomes a CEO. Is that crazy? Because he wasn't focused on where he was at. He was focused on where he was going. So your language should be communicating where you're going, not where you're at. So when my buddies were asking me in the Marine Corps, they were asking me, hey, are you making any money? I'm not making any money now. But I'm being mentored by a guy that's making over $50,000 a month. And I'm going to change my future. A year from now, you watch. I'm going to get out the Marine Corps. I'm going to own my own business. I'm going to be a six-figure earner. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Because I've got a mentor that's willing to teach me. He's got a platform that's allowing me to achieve my dreams. See, leaders don't need to see you do it. They just need to know that there's an opportunity that exists. You follow me on that? So that language has got to be there. You got to speak the language of champion. The last one is your focus. What do you focus on? Are you focused on the great things that are going in your life? Or are you focused on the negative things that are going on in your life? Right? So what are you talking about? Right? Hey, can I talk to you? Let me tell you what happened. No, nobody wants to hear that. Does that make sense? Stop having these little pity parties. Some of you in your office, you're like, oh, come here. I know Dan's positive, but let me just keep it real with you. Let me tell you. And then you guys have these little conversations, have these little pity parties, and you don't do nothing. Does it make sense? Stop that. Right? Start talking about where you're going. You're playing offense. These three things affect your attitude. You'll notice when your attitude is positive, what happens to your business? It grows. When your attitude is negative, your business dies. Make sense? So make sure that happens. So the next one is your activity. Teach by your example. Teach by example, not by trying to change their conditions. Right? What example you said? Now you're full-time, you're showing up in the office, you're making dials, people trying to talk to you, but you're making your dials. So now you start creating an environment. There needs to be an environment in your office when people come up to you, you go, hey, where you at? Oh, I'm right here, Dan. No. Where you at means how many recruits do you have? How many apps do you have? How much production do you have? How much money you made this week? So I see Neil. He said, what's up, Big Neil? How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, bro, where you at for the month? Oh, man, I know you was going to ask me that. Where you at? Man, I got 3 recruits, 5 apps, 10,000. I made $10,000 this week. Man, you freaking stud. Right? Everybody that comes within 3 feet of you that's full-time, they're in the office. Hey, where you at? So when somebody comes up to me, they go, hey, I want to talk to you. Where you at first? Where you at? That instant accountability, right? So activity, you got to drive that activity, right? Accountability. Who are you accountable to? Right? So at the same time in your office, you're making your calls, you should be filling out your accountability sheet. It's your job to be accountable to your leader. It's not your leader's job to find you. You think it was my job to find Ed? To go, hey, Ed, can you hold me accountable? Yeah, it's my job to do that. Not Ed's job to come find me and go, hey, Charlier, when are you going to be accountable? Why? Champions seek accountability. Champions seek accountability. Some of you are, well, Dan, I tried to be accountable to you and I called you 2 times. You didn't pick up. Well, you ain't hungry enough. You should have called me, because if I owed you 10 grand and you knew I had it, you wouldn't stop at 2. You'd be blowing up my phone all day. You'd be sitting outside of my house waiting for me. Does that make sense? So it's your job to seek your leader. You call him over and over. There was a time I called Rich Thorley 25 times. On the 26th time, he said, you really need to talk to me, don't you, Shaw? I go, yeah, I do. I'm going to keep calling until you pick up. You follow me on that? You got to seek that accountability. And the last one is alignment. You got to get aligned. You got to get aligned with your leadership, right? Now, let's talk about what that means. Because this is the stuff that you guys like to talk about, right? Let's talk about that, what that means, right? Compensation. Let's say retirement saving insurance program, $250 times 12, $3,000 a year. Family saving $250 a month. You're associated with your base shop, 35%, 3,035. They make 1,000. One family a week, 4,200 monthly income. Train one person a month. Help two families, 1,052, 2,100 additional part-time field training income. Right? So there should be a correlation between me making the dials, me setting up an appointment, me helping a family, and how much money I make. Does that make sense? You're not a nonprofit organization. So that when I ask you where you're at, you should know. You said, Dan, I've got 5 apps, I got 2 recruits, I got $15,000 in premium. That pays me $8,000 this week. You guys follow me on that? Now, broker potential with 5 agents. Why are you going to do all this work? Because this is a lot of work. Broker potential with 5 agents, each helping one family a week. That's a 35% override. 5 agents, 4 families a month. That's 20 apps in your base shop times 1,000. That's $21,000 override. That's a $21,000 override. You personally help 4 families, 81% contract. That's $8,400. 401k pension rollover, $150,000. Pay 7%. Can we move that up so we can see the bottom? Who's controlling this?
It's $4,700.
It's 47. What's that?
Oh no, it's 1750.
Where's the screen? Where's the computer screen? Okay, never mind.
It's a lot.
Okay. What's that?
It's a lot.
It's $46,000 a month. I wanted you guys to see that, right? Let me ask you a question, right? Would you do all that work for 46 grand a month? Yes. You know why you don't do it? Because you don't believe it. That's why you don't do it, because you don't believe it. You follow me on that? Remember I said the hardest thing was making $1 million. The easiest thing was making $1 million. The hardest thing was believing that I could. You guys follow me? You guys follow me on that? Now, you want to get to CEO, 6 directs, BBC 12-month, million-point base shop, 27 apps, 6 SMDs, 50,000 points a month. CEO plus you build your base, a million-point base shop, build 6 SMDs, 50,000 points a month, right? That pays you $1 million a year. What if 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, longest 5 years from now, you build a business that pays you a 7-figure income? I'm looking for 7 to 10 key people. I'm looking for 7 to 10 key people that has the hunger and the desire to help that many families. That has the hunger and the desire to help that many families, right? So you look at that, that's what it looks like. Imagine this, right? This is 1 week. 11,000, 33,000. That's what, that's like $45,000 that's like $45,000 that week. See that? It used to take me a whole year to make that. Imagine that. A whole year, 60 hours a week. Can you believe that? And that's one check. It's pretty cool.
Oh wait, can you go back?
Why did I have this picture up? Ah, look at this. These guys came over my house last week, right? Liz, where you at, Liz? Come up here, Liz. Liz, this is so awesome, right? Come up here, Liz. Liz, she's been a police officer for how many years?
17.
17 years she's been a police officer, right? And her husband, she just retired. She just fired her boss and she came full time. And everyone was asking her, everyone was saying, oh, what are you doing? Where are you going? What did this, that? She's like, hey, I'm leaving, right? And her husband came over the house and they were talking and all this stuff. And her goal is to make $200,000 a year. And then Noelle and Tate are both on. That's your exchange leg, right? That's her exchange leg. They're all business partners that come full time. Man, I was so excited after she left the house. I was like, man, and I could tell she was like, Dan, you sure I'm doing the right thing? I said, oh, man, I remember what that felt like, right? I remember what that felt like. You don't no longer have to get up and put on a uniform and have someone have their thumb on your head and walk around with a gun. You got a gun on you right now? Not today. She usually got one on her, man. She usually pack it, right? You got one in your sock? No? Okay. Right? But to see her come full time and fire her boss and knowing that she's in control of her future now. You follow me? That is a paradigm shift, people. That's a paradigm shift. You having to go be locked down in a job for 16, 17 hours a day, 6 days a week, whatever the case may be, is an old model, right? People now want their freedom. They want their time. They want to be able to wake up when they want to wake up. They want to control all that stuff, and that's the opportunity that we have, which is freaking awesome, right? You think about that. At some point, Natalie and Ryan sold her a dream, right? Sold her a dream. She bought the dream, gave her an environment. Now she quit a job and came full time. Give her a round of applause. Right? And you know what? Listen to this, you guys. Listen to this. This guy did that for me in 1998. He taught me, this guy right here, taught me into leaving the Marine Corps. All my buddies was like, dude, you crazy to get out. This guy right here was telling me, dude, you be crazy to stay in. Do you know what your life's going to look like 5, 10, 15 years from now? It won't even be close. I pulled up last month, I pulled up my, the military pay chart, right? This year would have been my 30th year in the Marine Corps. You know what my pay would have been? $7,500 a month.
Wow.
And I would have retired, I would have got 50% of that. That's after giving him 30 years. But back then in 98, you would have called him crazy for getting me to walk away from a 13-year military career 7 years from my retirement. My buddies in the military is like, dude, who the hell would tell you to do something like that? An entrepreneur is who would tell you to do something like that. You follow me on that? So your day might not be here yet, but your day is coming. Does that make sense? Put a target date on. Look, I got you on standby because I'm going to fire you soon. Make sense? Which is pretty cool stuff, right? Benefits. No franchise fees, territories, advertising fees, quotas, discrimination, inventory, payroll. You think about it. You got all different types of people from all walks of life. Whether you're white, you're black, you're tall, you're short, you're fat, you're skinny, you're a woman, you're a man, it doesn't matter here. Everybody has an opportunity to win. The dream is for everyone. You follow me? The dream is free, it's for everyone. Now the work is something different, right? You must decide that you're going to go do the work, right? You got free training, website, pre-approved brochures, exotic travels, right? Millionaire success coaches. You have people that have done it in this platform that's willing to teach you how to do it. How are you going to lose? Right? Think about that. Mentor, flexible schedule, legal team, stock option, national sponsorship, expansion, training. Most of our biggest leaders did not have a financial background prior to joining. Office training. You think about Melinda, right? You see how awesome Melinda is. Melinda, how many degrees you got?
3.
Melinda has 3 degrees. She was working at Cedars-Sinai for one of the top, what do I call it, doctor?
Yeah.
He was one of the top doctors. He actually delivered, which one, Matthew?
Last one.
Yeah, Matthew. He actually delivered Matthew, right? People from all over the world flying to go see this doctor, right? Melinda, she was getting ready to get paid. They were getting ready to pay her $250,000 a year. And how many hours a day were you going to work, Melinda?
16.
16 hours a day, and how many days a week?
6 at least.
6 days a week, 16-hour days. She's the right hand for this doctor. And she comes to meet with me. She's like, well, they offered me this. I said, fire your boss, girl. Fire your boss. I said, at the end of the day, you're building his deal. Come take that time, put it in your own business. Now, she had the goodies, though. Her and her husband had the goodies. Melinda, when Melinda was part-time, she wasn't doing some of the stuff you guys do. Melinda used to come from after a 16-hour day. Melinda would show up to the office, still in her scrubs, and work a full day at her thing. And I remember when she quit her job, and her and Comfort, boom, they quit their job. They came full time. And now they're building a team. They got 13 SMDs, and all this stuff is going on, right? So you gotta get fired up about that stuff, right? Now, passive income, residual income, reinsurance, override, 1099, 1,000 product providers, national conventions, start part-time. There's huge benefits of owning your own company and owning your own business. But it has to happen. You got to make a decision. See, some of us, we must reframe the stories that you're telling yourself. Because there's old in you. I went to Andy Wynn's Wealth Bowl, right? So I'm sitting in Andy Wynn's Wealth Bowl, right? And that year, he promoted 9 CEOs that year. And they're all on stage, right? He promoted 9 CEOs. They're all on stage. 5 of the ones that he promoted had been in WFG 10, 11 years. And they, for like they got up to tell their story. They were like, for 10 years, I did nothing for 10 years, did nothing. I mean, they were making like 100,000, but nothing big, right? And then so I'm sitting there, I'm going, oh my God, I got to talk to these guys. So I went up to him, I said, hey, dude, you've been here 11 years. What do you mean 10 years you did nothing? What happened that 10th year and that 1 year you hit CEO? You know what they all said to me? I finally believed that I could do it. It wasn't anything that they didn't know. They just decided, and then within 1 year, they hit CEO. They've been in this thing for 10 years. I said, if you had to do it all over again, what would you have done different and why? He said, Dan, I would have decided my first year. Ain't that crazy? So you can hear this stuff over and over and over again, and if you don't make a decision, it's just a warm bath. You walk out of here, you go, well, you know, I knew Dan was going to get me fired up, and, you know, he doesn't really know my story, and blah, blah, blah. And you telling yourself some old story that literally brings no value to your life. What about if you could create a new story? What about if you could create a new dream? What about 2017, you got a book in your hand, you're the author, and you are creating your story. You are creating your story. What about not trying to prove people wrong, but the people that believe in you, prove them right? Stop worrying about the negative people that tell you what you can't do. You got people around you that tell you what you can do. What about proving those people right? You follow me on that? So now that excites you. It should excite you. It should get you fired up, right? Cabo. Now here's what's going to happen. December, January, February. You got to tee it up. We're going to be in Cabo. I remember the first time I ran a Cabo years ago. I remember being in Cabo and Francis Ho. He was a senior associate. He qualified for Cabo. That's the first time I met Francis. He separated himself from the pack. Why do we have these trips? Matter of fact, get your passports. Make sure your passports are dates and all that stuff is cool, right? Why do we have these trips? The reason we have these trips, right? Contest period December 1st to February 28th. If you're SMD, 90,000 point, 15 base with 6 direct recruits. MD and SA, 40,000 point, 6 directs. Associates trained person 25, 6 direct. Cabo St. Lucas, right? Now, why do we have those trips? We're gonna have those trips. We have these trips so we can identify who the players are in the room. Now, some of you are like, well, I've been to Cabo before, Dan. I don't really get excited about it. You're missing the whole point. You're missing the whole point, right? You got to compete and you got to win, right? So you got to. I remember the first time I competed for one of these contests. I told my son Justin, he was just a little baby at the time, 5, 6 years old, and I took the picture of the contest, which was Hawaii. I put it on the wall, and I said, we are going to Hawaii in February. I declared it. We're going to Hawaii. So I went on the internet. I pulled up all the stuff about Hawaii, all the stuff about the hotel we were staying in, got my kids all fired up. They were like, oh, my God, we're going to Hawaii, da-da-da, all this stuff. So I'm living in a little apartment at the time, 900 square foot, right on Irvine, right on 5 and Jeffrey. So I'm working my full-time job, and I'm doing WFG, right? So I'm running. And this is right before I go full time. So one night I come home, boom, I change into my clothes, boom, boom, all this stuff. And I'm leaving out the door, and my son says, Dad. I said, yeah. He says, you leaving again? I go, yeah, I'm going on an appointment. He's like, Dad, you're never home. I said, oh my God, you want me to stay home? He's like, yeah. I said, okay. So I got back in, I took my shoes off, I sat on the couch. Right, we're watching TV. So we're watching for a few minutes. So I said to him, I said, hey, Jay. He said, yes, Dad. I said, remember Dad talked about going to Hawaii? He's like, yeah. Remember the hotel where we talked about it? He says, yeah. I said, you realize that's a contest? He says, yeah. I says, you realize in a contest, you have to win the contest in order to go. He says, yeah. I said, well, the reason Dad's leaving the house is because Dad has to win the contest. So if Dad stays home, he doesn't chance to compete. So that means we don't go to Hawaii. So it's up to you. Do you want Dad to go and compete, or do you want Dad to stay home? He stopped. I want Dad to compete. Thank you. Boom, put my stuff back on and went right back out. You guys follow me on that? So you have to enroll your family. You got to enroll your family and go, hey, we're going to need the home support because at the end of the day, we're all going to go to Cabo, right? Can you imagine that? There's going to be two stories. There's going to be two stories because we got social media, we got Instagram, we got Twitter. I saw your son's dunk like do a 360 on Instagram today. Boom! It's like, damn, that's still Clark, right? Jaden Clark. Yeah, he's my friend on Instagram. He sent me that. Neil doesn't know what Instagram is. I'm kidding. He has MySpace. I've always given Neil a hard time. What was I telling you guys?
There's going to be two stories.
There's going to be two stories. I'll leave you guys at this. There's going to be two stories, right? You got social media, right? You got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Facebook Live. You got all that stuff, right? So come to Cabo. You know, we're all great communicators. You're either going to be at home or at the office, and you're going to get all the updates of what we're doing in Cabo. And you guys know I'm really good at it. You're like, oh my God, they're here, they're there, they're that. And you're going to vicariously watch it on the internet. And you're going to get cards and stuff like that. And your wife, your partner, they're going to be like, how come we didn't go to Cabo? Right? Or you're going to be in Cabo, right? Having a blast, communicating with your teams, right? So we're going to run hard for 90 days, and we're going to take 4 or 5 days, and we're going to go play, right? And then all your friends at your job tell you a real story. So I'm getting ready to get out the Marine Corps. My buddies tell me I'm crazy to get out. I tell them they're crazy to stay in, right? Fast forward 12 months later, I went to Hawaii. I did that whole 90-day thing. Remember I talked about? Qualified for Hawaii. I called my mom. Mom, I'm taking you to Hawaii. Boom, kids, everyone's fired up. We're going to Hawaii, right? I get a phone call from my buddy Smitty, right? Not the Smitty you guys know, another Smitty, Maurice Smitty. I get a phone call from Maurice, and he had just been activated to go to Iraq, right? So when I was getting out, they told me you can go inactive reserves. If you go inactive reserves, you only got to do a 1 weekend a month. But I read Think and Grow Rich, and my left said to me, he says, dude, don't do that. Burn the bridge, dude. Boom. Out, get out. No attachments. So the lady's talking to me. The lady says, well, Dan, it makes sense. You've been in for 13 years. You only got 7 years to go. It makes sense for go inactive reserves. Problem is, I read Think and Grow Rich, and Think and Grow Rich talked about, you know, you got to burn your bridge. You got to give yourself no options. So I said, no, I'm getting out. Boom, all the stuff, right? If I would have stayed inactive reserve 12 months later, what that means, they activated all the inactive reserves. They went to full active, and they sent them all to Iraq. So my buddy, Smitty, that told me I was crazy to get out, boom, he gets activated. Now he's on his way to Iraq. So he's on a C-130 on his way to Iraq. I'm on American Airlines on my way to Hawaii. He calls me, right? Because I know his family and all this stuff. He's like, yo, this is my third tour. I'm getting ready to go to Iraq. Can you keep an eye on the kids? Because I'm going to be gone on this pump for a year and a half, right? He lands in Iraq, right? He's where he was staying at, the camp that they were in. His first night, 2 tents down, got hit by a rocket. And I remember talking to him. He says, Dan, if I make this tour, I'm getting out. And I was like, dude, I just landed in Hawaii. It's like two different conversations. He's like, dude, do you really have to tell me you're in Hawaii? Hell yeah. Because you weren't trying to hear me a year ago. You hear me? So here's the deal, you guys. Here's the deal. You got to pay the price. You got to get after it. You got to believe in your dreams. Right? You got to believe in your dreams. And 90% of the stuff that you're worrying about right now ain't going to happen. You follow me? And the reason you're spending so much time worrying about it, because you're not moving. You're not moving. You're the dog standing by the car. You follow me? You're that car. The dog pisses on you. You ain't moving. You need to move. And the way you move, the way you take offense, you got to hit the phones. You got to make your $50 a day. When you're making $50 a day, you got 35, 40 appointments a week. You don't have a lot of time for a lot of stuff because you're moving. You got too much activity. You follow me on that? Now, the business, you do that, the business becomes fun. The business becomes exciting. Imagine you're doing 35, 40 appointments a week. Oh my God. Do you know how fluent you become in the business? Here's what else you need. Here's what else I want you to understand about that. You're the happiest. Think about this, because most of us want to be happy, right? You're the happiest when you're progressing. When you're moving towards something and you're getting results, you're the happiest. Does that make sense? When you're not progressing, you're not getting results, right? Because some of us say, well, I just got to spend more time with my family, blah, 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 right? And then you spend time with your family. And you're like mad as hell. Because you're not doing anything in your business, because you feel guilty. Then you're in your business, you mad as hell, because you ain't home with your family. Because neither one of those are getting 100%. But if you gave your business 100%, when you're here, you bust it. And when you're here, you give it 100%, you're happy. You follow me on that? Like my kids, right? My 4-year-old, 7, 9-year-old. I'm just not that dad. I'm just not. I'm okay with it. Like, I took him to Disneyland, right? So I called my boy. I was like, dude, I can't stand in line for like 2.5 hours. I just can't. I mean, some people can do it. I've seen people do it. I just can't. So how do I get around that? He's like, dude, here's what you tell him. Tell him that you have, what was it again?
Mental issue.
No, not the mental issue. It's a disorder. It's anxiety, extreme anxiety disorder. So he gave me a prescription, right, for extreme anxiety disorder, right? So I got myself a chip. So I show up at Disneyland. So they buy all the stuff, and we got the fast passes, all the stuff. And long line. I walk up to the guy and go, hey, I need your help. And he goes, what's going on? I says, I'm embarrassed to say, I have an extreme anxiety disorder. Like, I just can't be around crowds. He goes, oh my God, I'm sorry. I said, I'm going to show you this, but I don't want my kids to see it because I'm trying to keep it from the family. And I showed him my shit like this, and he's like, oh, okay, sorry. And he'll let me in. Like, I just can't, and then my son, my 9-year-old Danny, you can't get nothing past him. And he walks up to me, he goes, Dad, why do you have a doctor's note? I was like, get out of here, right? But I went through the whole Disneyland, and then at the end of the night, I tell my wife, it's like, dude, is there really something wrong with me? Like, because I see these dads, and they have their backpacks, and they're holding hands, and, you know, they're like this, they're waiting in line. I was just like, is there, like, something wrong with me? Because I just can't do that. I just can't do it. You follow me on that? So, but what I can do is do incredible things. I'll do things with my kids that most kids never experience. You follow me? I want to live an incredible life. Incredible life. I want them seeing their dad getting after it, right? There's a book called The Path that's written by Laura Beth Jones. They interviewed thousands of kids, and they asked them, if you could wish one thing from your parents, what would it be? Their answer is that we would want to see our parents live a happy and fulfilled life. right? So my kids know, say, hey, we're going in the pool, we're going with dad. We probably got about 20, maybe 15 to 20 max with dad in the pool. But when we go in there, we're going to have a blast. But I'm just not going to lay around for 2, 3, 4 hours just like, I'm just not going to do it, right? So understand, it's not the amount of time, it's the quality of time that you spend. Some of you said you beat yourself up. I need to spend more time with my family. No, you need to have quality of time with your family. Does that make sense? You have quality of time. When you're in the office, it's not you spent 16 hours in the office. I spent quality time in the office. I see some of you in the office, you walk around all day. Man, I've been here 16 hours. How many calls you made? Oh, I haven't got around to that yet. You follow me? It's not, you're not spending quality time. You can be in an office for 3 hours and be more effective in those 3 hours than most agents all day long. Why? Because you're picking up the phones. Choose to be effective. When I'm on an appointment, I'm effective. When I'm doing a one-on-one, I'm effective. Effective means you know how to get results. And that's what people want to see. When I pick up the phone, get results. Right? And the only way you're going to get better at it is you got to do more. You must put yourself in a position where you're getting feedback. Get someone that's really good that can watch you, that can give you feedback, and then moving forward, you must get feed forward for someone that's been there before. So if I never made $100,000 a year in this business, right, I want to get with someone that made $100,000 and go, hey, this is where I'm at. Show me how to get from here to here. If I never made $250,000, I find someone that making $250,000. This is where I'm at. Show me how to get from here. And the best gift you can give him is go actually do it. Make sense? Yes. Thank you guys. Have a great week. See you guys at the top. Thanks for your excitement. What's that? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's what was coming out.
So we're meeting in the office. Diane.